A despondent Clay meets with the president to discuss the future of the task force, but he's interrupted by the arrival of his brother. Meanwhile, Alex leads an operation to expose the collaborators' plan to sink the president's reputation, and she teaches Owen to trust his instincts. Season 2, Episode 18, KUMONK of Quantico starts right now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion. AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Guess who's back? We're back again. Welcome to the AFTERBUZZ TV Quantico, Season 2, Episode 18. I'm your host, Drexel Hurd. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Drexel Hurd. You can also follow me on Facebook at Official Drexel Hurd, which I never say on this show. Renee's out today, but I am here with Tim.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. I am Timothy Michael. You can reach me on all social media platforms at I am Timothy Mike. Yes, as Drexel said, Renee is out today. We will miss her. I'm sure you guys will too.
She is frolicking with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Yes, in Canada. We miss you, Renee.
Yes, she's escaping Trump.
Good for her.
Welcome to the show, guys. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. We'll do it fairly quickly for you because, you know, it's late here in Los Angeles and we know you guys got to go to bed. Hey, the truth in the chat room. It's good to see you, sir, or madam, or the truth.
The truth is non-gender specific.
Well, yeah, we'll do the show. The show is getting very good, so let's dive right in. I want to talk about who came back to the show. We saw two characters. Caleb is back.
Yes.
Yay! Miranda is back.
Miranda, even more, yes!
And Miranda looks great with this slick back hair.
That's what I literally wrote that down. I was like, Miranda looks really good, especially coming back from what she came back from. I think she looks great and not disheveled or anything like that.
Yeah, and so let's talk about Caleb coming back first of all. He came back. I guess he was in Mexico or somewhere.
Tulum, Mexico.
Tulum, Mexico. What did they just ship him off? I mean, you know, there's a lot of narcotics coming from Mexico, so I don't know if Mexico might have been the best place for Caleb to have been coming from.
Well, speaking of narcotics, he seemed a little high when he was in that room with his brother and his mother. Like, I thought it was a little overdone.
I don't know if he was high. I just
Not
thought
high.
that he
like,
was.
he just seems a little.
You know, I just thought he was excited since they brought him out of the shadows.
I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was a little. I don't know. I didn't really like the interaction between the two brothers. I don't know why.
Well, and that interaction, let's talk about that because that interaction was really
awkward.
It was really awkward. Hi, Carmen in the chat room. It was a little awkward because I don't think they get along at all.
I don't think. I mean, they're big brother, younger brother. I could understand why they wouldn't get along, but at the same time, I would expect. And this is the one thing the one criticism that I always have about Quantico is that the chemistry between the characters sometimes just falls for me. And I feel like if they're brothers, they should have a little bit more. Like, if you're going to get on his nerves, then get on his nerves in like a brotherly way. But I felt like it was just more of like an annoying, like, co-star kind of way. I don't even know if that makes sense, guys, but that's just how I felt. That's just the chemistry that I read.
And I also think that Clay is the brother that feels like Caleb should pull it together. Like, now his mom's the president and he feels like the weight of the family on his shoulders. His dad's kind of out of the picture, so he is kind of the older, he's the male authoritarian figure in this family. And that's really difficult for him. And he sees his brother like doing stuff that could have an impact on what the president is doing. And so he's trying to think of that more than his relationship with the brother is, how do I protect Claire first and then brother second?
But I feel like at the same time, yes, I understand that part of it, but I feel like he should also want to protect his younger brother because of all those things that happened as well, because the dad's not in the picture, because, you know, he does obviously know that his brother's girlfriend slept with this father and is now on this team that he is running. Like, it's all this incestuous kind of thing. So I would think that Clay would want to be there for his brother even more, despite whatever their differences are in the past. That might be why they don't get along.
Well, hopefully we see a little bit more now that Caleb is back in the picture, because we understand there's a little bit of arc with Caleb on the show. So hopefully we'll get down to the nitty gritty
I also feel like with any kind of brother relationship, I feel like there's going to be this whole favoritism card that's going to be played where, Claire obviously has a favorite, and I think that's I honestly think that it would be Caleb. Because Caleb's gone through all of this stuff and she's done everything to protect him, whereas Clay's the good kid, the good brother, and parents never worry about the good kid, and then the good kids feel like the parents are putting more of their energy into the bad kids. Not that Caleb is bad. Yes. I mean, he did go through his little phase, but I feel like Clay feels that maybe Caleb gets more of the attention.
And I'm sure he does. But I mean, that's the reality of being the more
put together brother.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we'll see a little bit more about what Caleb and Clay's relationship is like, even to the end where Caleb, to an extent, there's a couple of things that struck me with Caleb. Was first, he had a really coherent idea of what the task force should be doing when he was with President Haas in the room. And then at the end, he had a really clear idea with Shelby, basically threatening her and saying, I see what, basically in his head, I see what you're doing with my brother. This cannot happen. And so I think that Caleb was he's a little bit more clear-eyed than we're being led on to believe because of the way he's been acting. But
I feel like we also need to remember that Caleb is a very, very, fun, very just, loose character, and he's always been that way. So just to have him back, I think it's just a readjustment for us as the audience, just getting used to Caleb as a character again, because he is this loosey, kind of goofy kind of character, and we really haven't had that in a while. So right. I think that's just another thing that we have to get used to. Speaking of Caleb coming back, I know Renee is probably at home right now, or in Canada right now, just finally back, and she's not here to enjoy it with us.
But that's okay, because we can enjoy Caleb on our own without Renee. Just kidding. He'll be back next week with Renee. Miranda's back, and Miranda was only back for a little bit, so it was good to see her. I think a few episodes ago we were like, what happened? We saw Raina, we saw Nima, and then we were like, well, if Nima's out and now on this task force, that means Miranda has to be somewhere.
Right. Which I was like, maybe Miranda is being questioned. I never thought, because they didn't running a task force. Because they didn't really even show her in the previews of any of the upcoming episodes. Right. So I was completely blindsided that she would be a special agent in charge of, one of the cities that a riot could break out in because of this, case that's going on. And like we said earlier in the episode, she looks great. I liked how they kind of phrased her being by the book now because of everything that happened with the G20 summit and her going out of her way to protect everybody else. And now she's like, no, this is my last chance to save my career. This is what I love to do. I need to stick by what I need to do. But then at the same time, I'm like, I kind of wish they would have showed us what she went through, and they might go back to it in the future as a flashback or something, but I want to see her struggle with her decision and the the bad choices that she made during the G20 summit. I want to see her act that out because she is such a good actress. I want to see that part of it.
But see, I don't think that we're going to, we only have 4 episodes left in this season, so I don't know how much Miranda we're going to get unless they move Miranda to this new team, because Miranda's task force or her team was specifically in Cleveland.
Yeah.
They were on a specific mission.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Miranda's going to, unless they say, Miranda, your mission's over, now you got to come to the team. I can't imagine that we'll see much more of Miranda. That's the only way I feel like we would see.
I know. Don't break my heart though, because I really like Miranda. She's one of my favorite characters, and I love Miranda. I want to see her more, but I feel like you're right. I don't see how else they could include her in the further cases with breaking down all of these elements of the roster. I just don't see how they would do that. I hope that they figure out a way. I hope that they blindside me again to incorporate her into more episodes. But after this, I'm like, I don't know.
Speaking of Cleveland and the case, let's talk about the main case.
Yeah.
So 5 pings in 5 hours. That's what they were up against. There have been civil disobedience they were looking at civil disobedience police procedures. So basically, what we've known so far this second half of this season is they've been looking at different procedures and laws and things to get around it and things to use to their advantage. In this case, is the police procedures on how they deal with civil disobedience in 5 big cities: Cleveland, Detroit, Albany, El Paso, and Fargo. I don't know much about Fargo other than the movie or the television show Fargo.
And that it's in North Dakota.
And that it's in North Dakota. And that the country is on edge after the Muslim ban situation. So we didn't really get a chance to see the effect on the Muslim ban or its failure. But from what we got was that because it all seemed to be like the next day, but it was like but then in certain conversations, they made it seem like the Muslim ban had been the failure of the Muslim ban had an effect on the way people were feeling and the way the country. So I was a little confused on that because I was like, but it's only been like 24 hours.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily confused because the news cycle does go by very fast.
But the news cycle, I mean, nothing happened to warrant the country being on edge from the failure to pass the Muslim ban, is what I'm saying. They made it seem like that the Muslim ban failure, that something happened, and that's why the country's on edge. But the country was on edge in 5 different cities for 5 very different reasons.
Which they explained.
And in this case, in Cleveland, there was a guy who used an illegal gun, and illegally obtained gun. It's a murder case, and that's why the city was on edge. So this is a bad PR situation for President Haas because she was the one that pushed for the executive order with President Todd. I did want to bring up so that everybody had a clear understanding of what the Allen charge was. This was based off of Allen versus the United States in 1896. It was a United States Supreme Court case, amongst other things, approved the use of a jury instruction intended to prevent a hung jury by encouraging jurors in the minority to reconsider. So basically, if you were like two jurors who were like on the fence, the judge would keep sending you back so that the other jurors would have a chance to help you reconsider.
Right.
And that really pushes people to feel pressured to make that decision.
Well, I think one of the things that I was glad they addressed was that it does push people to make a decision, but it usually favors the prosecution, which I think is wrong because it shouldn't favor the prosecution just because you want a decision in a hasty time, like in a hasty way. I feel like it's you have a right to a fair trial, which means that no matter how long it takes to convince a jury of your peers to make a decision, then you really can't control that time frame.
Well, and it's the burden of proof is on the prosecution.
I understand that, but I feel like a judge. I mean, this whole I'm sorry, what is it called again?
The Allen charge.
The Allen charge. I feel like, and they addressed it that they said it's a procedure that is used. I feel like it shouldn't be because I don't see any good coming from it. I honestly don't see it. Because if you're being rushed to make a decision, how could you possibly make a good decision?
I don't necessarily know if they were necessarily being rushed to make a decision so much. Well, I mean, they did have a time frame because they kept going back.
Right.
But they kept going back, and the judge wanted a decision because I think that a lot of judges, don't want don't want a fair trial, but don't want a mistrial. And that's what judges don't want, is a mistrial. They don't want a hung jury. They don't want a mistrial. So they keep pushing the jury to make that decision because you're going to end up having a hung jury, and that means you're going to have to retry the case over again.
Right, but
that's going to cost the city more money, and that's not a situation that anybody wants.
Right, but then at the same time, if that's what the jury decides to be hung, then that's what they decide. I mean, there's really nothing you could do about it. By initiating this Allen charge, then you are influencing the jury in an unfair way.
But I mean, and I know that Alex said this, it could go either way. You could either, those two jurors, the jurors in the minority, could convince the majority that, yeah.
But they addressed it in this episode where they said it usually favors the prosecution.
It usually favors the prosecution, but I'm saying that there are cases where the minority will prevail over the majority, and then it will flip in the opposite direction, and Alex brought that up. So now we're going through this whole situation. They talked about the different cities that were happening, Black Lives Matter with the police, Native American protesters in North Dakota, or with the sheriff's department. So situations that are currently happening, have been happening in the United States over the past couple of years.
Right.
So they get to Cleveland, and then boop, 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 heel clacking down the hallway. It's Miranda. I was like, oh, okay. And so now they need to, the goal is to get figure out what's happening with the jury.
Yes.
And they talk to these jurors. I didn't really, obviously we didn't get wrapped up in the jurors because it was just kind of like let's get the bits of information so we can get to the real culprit, which is the judge, Judge Kaplan. He's presiding. He's the one really pushing for this guilty verdict. And what we've seen is, just like with Rebecca Sherman and a couple other people, they've been compromised. They're being pushed to make these decisions. It almost reminds me a little of some of the stuff you guys watched Designated Survivor, some of the stuff that had to happen with the vice president and his wife, and these people are being pushed to do that. Same thing that's happening on Scandal right now. A lot of these shows are going down the same path as they're being pushed by
Blackmailed.
They're being blackmailed by like rogue groups,
dangerous
groups, and it's something that we have to think about, about what's happening. Maybe that's what's happening in the White House right now. I don't know.
I mean,
there is, but we already know who's controlling the White House.
I think what I loved about that scene of Alex, Shelby, and Raina walking in to the Cleveland FBI building or station or wherever they were stationed was that they reminded me of like Charlie's Angels when the three of them were walking in there. And then I loved how Miranda, because and we always forget about this in season 1, she literally groomed Nima and Raina to be this, twin double agent kind of thing to throw off all these things, which they never expanded on, which I'm still really upset about because I thought that was a brilliant storyline. But I loved how Miranda caught that it was Raina and not Nima.
Without hesitation.
Right. And Shelby and Alex were like, wait, what? And Miranda was like, guys. Like, I love that.
She didn't even, but she didn't even say guys. She just looked.
Right.
She didn't even say anything. She's like, listen, you fools then rolled up in here.
And then she was like, I don't care what you have to do. She was like, yeah, I don't care what the reason is that you're impersonating your sister. Like, I don't care. This is my job, and you are, you're affecting my line of work now, and we just need to stick to what I know.
Which is interesting because on a certain level, these three girls, there has to be a reason why they're there. Obviously, they couldn't really tell Miranda that they were working for the president. So it doesn't make sense that the president would not have somehow gotten the message to the FBI to say, I'm sending in 3 FBI agents to Cleveland, give them what they need to make this happen.
But nobody's supposed to know about their group, though.
No. They're not about the group. The president can say, I'm sending 3 more agents to help out with this situation in Cleveland.
Right,
and
that's what they did. That's what their cover story was.
But I'm saying that never got to Miranda, who was the head of this task force. Like why would Shelby and Alex and Nima or Raina just show up? You know what I mean? Like, they just rolled in like they owned the joint.
Well, because what they were going to do, and they addressed it in the episode, what their job was to do was to convince the special agent in charge that they were there to help.
Right.
And then Shelby was like, I don't think that's going to work because it's Miranda, and Miranda already knows all of their tricks.
Right.
So that was their first roadblock. But I feel like they went into it knowing what they had to do, and then they were like, oh, crap, it's Miranda.
Right.
I think my only criticism to that would be, don't you think as president or Clay being, the head of this task force, him sending them into the Cleveland building.
They would have known it was
They would have known that it was Miranda that was the special agent in charge. They would have anticipated that, but they didn't.
Nobody told them.
I mean, element of surprise. I'm still glad that Miranda's
Which is great, yeah. So then we get down to the guilty verdict. Going down. Now they've got to the judge at this point. He tells them that he's basically being blackmailed and that they're basically blackmailing him for something we didn't get a chance to figure out what that something was, and that they're going to charge him with something. Now, how this rogue group can charge him with, I mean, obviously, we'll talk about the 8 members of the cast here in a little bit, but like, they got something on him.
Yeah.
They just don't know, so they come down with the guilty verdict. And then I just want to back up to how this scene with Claire Haas happened, because Caleb we think that he's going in to the speaker's house for a certain reason. And I thought, I was like, oh Lord, Kayla's about to flip. And Clay's about to flip because Clay is in the speaker's house. He's with his friend Felix. The speaker's offering him basically a job. And we don't really see Clay after that. And so then fast forward to, him on the phone with his like Jack Bauer voice. I got this. And that's what he ends up, alerting the president. Now, to my knowledge, they were going from DC to Cleveland. They had they didn't have a lot of hours. The president of the United States traveled and nobody knew.
This is one of your main criticisms about the show, where the President Haas is just like everywhere and without Secret Service or without all this detail. And I think I think we're just gonna have to let that go because clearly she's just gonna keep popping up. I was a little surprised.
She just popped up.
I know. I was surprised at that at the end of the episode too when she popped out, and I was like, did she go from DC to Cleveland that fast? Because I was like,
well, that was my first.
I was like, where's
problem.
Ohio? I was like, where's Ohio?
It's a few states over.
Yeah, and I was like, is that maybe what 3 hours, 2-3 hours? But
By
TV
plane.
magic, whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, like she popped up, like nobody knew, speaker didn't know. Now, typically, president leaves the Oval Office, flies on Air Force One. Air Force One's in the air. People do know about that. Speaker's office is probably alerted to the president's travel because somebody's got to pay for it. So, for him to have not known, for the speaker to be traveling without a cachet of Secret Service as well.
He had some people behind him.
I'm just saying, like, I'm sure he had his team with him, whatever, but like, it just seemed very far-fetched.
Okay, we're going to just TV magic. We're just going to let that go. I do want to go back to Clay in the beginning of the episode, though, when we all thought that he was going to the speaker's office to flip. I didn't like, and he did address it at the end of the episode with Shelby when she was like, I thought you were going to go to your mom to, just give up on us. And he was like, I was. I don't like that about him. And this is the one criticism that I have about his character is that from the beginning, and Owen brought it up, he is not a leader. He has a bad attitude. If you have to show your team that you're going to be there for them and with them no matter what. And Clay does not do that. He is ready to give up at a moment's notice. And how are you supposed to build respect for your team if you aren't going to be there for them through thick and thin?
Right. I think that for Clay.
And sorry, not to cut you off. And I think the only reason he really stuck around was because Caleb showed up and was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take over." And Clay was like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna let my little brother come in and take over."
Right, but and I think that gave him a little nudge. But I think people
it shouldn't have to give him a little nudge. He should be a
Clay
leader.
is not a leader. Clay was never. But I'm saying Clay was never built to be a leader. He is an operative. He is a political operative. He is a person. He is a policy White House person.
I understand that. Then he shouldn't be in charge of this
but
team.
his mother asked him to do that. So I don't think that he ever got a chance to do that. And mother tells you, president tells you, that's what you go do. And so he didn't really have a choice. So now his pragmatic brain kicked in, and not only his pragmatism kicked in, his need to feel safe in a situation, his need to keep his mother out of harm's way in terms of publicly out of harm's way kicked in. And the only way, that's what he fell back into. And I think he talks about that a lot, is he fell back into his normal habits, which is just retreating to the safe place. And I don't think that Clay was built for leadership, whereas Caleb was like, I've been in the field. I was at Quantico. I've gone through this. I've had to be in situations where I've had to kind of help lead a team into different decisions. In season 1 at Quantico, when they were trying to
he failed out of Quantico.
I'm not saying that, but that's besides the point.
It's not. We can't sit here and say that Caleb would be a better leader than Clay just because he knows his team, when Caleb really hasn't initiated any kind of leadership skills either, because he A, failed out of Quantico, and then B, became a drug addict because he couldn't deal with his issues. So I don't think he's a very good leader either.
I'm not saying that he's a good leader. I'm saying that what we saw from Caleb when he was talking to his mother, like I said at the beginning of this, he had a clear idea of what needed to be done. He was making a decision that Clay should have made at the farm.
Right. No, I agree with that.
So that does not. So just because you somehow screw up, or whatever does not mean that you cannot come back from that, or that you do not have a clear idea of what you need to do.
I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if this team is doing something this important, you should have a leader that is 120% capable of leading you into the direction that you need to go. And this is why I think Owen would have been more than capable. And Owen had his faults too.
But-
Owen was in federal prison because of a mistake that he made. But I feel like Owen would be a better leader than Caleb
But that's
or
why,
Clay.
but that's why Owen is there. A, but B, Claire needed somebody she could trust, and so she picked her son. And that's the reality of the situation: is that you put. I mean, this whole nepotism thing. This is why. This is what's happening in the Trump administration. You put your. I mean, this is what happened last week. Something. Serious strikes happen, and who really makes the call is Ivanka Trump. So you've got the children who you trust making the decisions around you.
Yeah, but you literally just compared the Haas's to the Trumps, and I don't think that's a very good comparison.
I mean that in the sense of Clay is somewhere, Claire is the president, Trump is there.
No, I
Ivanka's
understand
there.
what you're saying.
That's the situation. So, but Caleb is not making necessarily decisions. He just so happens to be there. So Felix gets played again. Now that the guilty verdict is out, Claire kind of rolls up on the speaker, which I thought was a really great scene.
Oh, yeah.
She gives a really great speech written by Clay.
Written by Clay.
I was like, where's the prompters at? But I thought that was great. I think there was a really, the Quantico writers tweeted out something that said like, that's a little far. I mean, the most far-fetched thing that's ever happened this season is a politician apologize.
When a politician, even in our present political world, in real life, I feel like it takes more courage for a politician or even a person to admit when they were wrong, and I feel like it allows me to have more respect for them as a person. Rather than them trying to hide it or, backtrack or something like that, just admittedly saying, hey, I was wrong. The only thing I can do is learn from it and move on from there.
Well, it's not going to happen out of this White House because they have a no apology.
Wait, which White House are you talking about?
The actual White House.
Oh, okay.
They have a no apology, that's their mantra right now.
Right.
But speaking of the people that are hiding, we have now figured out the 8 members of the cache. It just all happened so fast.
It happened. Thank you.
I was like, we got 3 of them, and then that was it.
First of all, let's take a step back, but because the reason why we had the 8 members of the cache is because Sebastian came back and had that fight scene with Owen, and then they kind of interrogated him as to why he was there doing research, and apparently he's been following, and he didn't, like I said in 2 episodes ago, he wasn't the one that shot at Rebecca Sherman. Just because he had that thing on his back.
But like I said, he was also trying to figure out what Carly was doing.
Yes, but at the same time, he didn't kill anybody. He did let Harry go. Let's see if he makes an appearance in later episodes. But I just thought it was a little weird because he gave it up so easily. Like, he had all of these 5 names that I was like, whoa, this happened so fast. I thought that we were going to keep going through the episodes and dinging them off one by one, and this is how we would come to the finale.
Well,
but
we don't have 8 episodes left, but
okay, maybe
not
2 at a
even
time. I didn't expect them to do this fast. I agree with you that it was really, really fast.
it was really fast. So let's just go through the 8 members that we had first. We had the government, which was Rourke. We had
the money, which was
the
Christian
money,
Kelly.
which was Kelly. We had the law, which was Roth, and now we've got
And then we had logistics, which was Rebecca Sherman.
Because she was like a socialite.
Yes.
And now we've got the ideologue, who is
Maxwell Fletcher.
We've got the technology, who was
Peter
Theo, who I thought was that guy from the first party, and I was like, that's not the same person. No. But we had the media, who is Warren Shepherd, and defense, which is Alice Winter. I would have preferred an episode about the defense.
Oh, me too.
Like that one, I would have probably, or maybe maybe Alice Fletcher in the last episode with the
Alice
Muslim.
Winter?
No, I'm sorry. Maxwell Fletcher with the ideologue in the last episode with the Muslim ban and all that stuff. I would have preferred maybe they tied him into that.
No, I feel like they could have done a lot more with these 8 key players rather than just grouping 4 of them into one episode and just saying these are them, this is what they cover.
They could have put the technology in the episode with the party.
They could have done a lot.
Just in episodes that we've already seen, not even episodes that are upcoming.
Right, and then what bothers me is that in the preview, apparently at this engagement party, these 8 key members are gonna play a big role, and we're gonna see some of them that we haven't even been introduced to, and we already know that they're part of the roster. I kind of liked figuring out who was who in the other episodes, right? And now they took that away from me, so I was upset about that.
That's okay because, I mean, obviously that means the next 4 episodes are going to be moving at lightning speed. You know what had been moving at lightning speed, though? Sasha and Ryan.
Yes.
It had been moving at lightning speed. They obviously... Ryan does not trust Sasha. We saw that at the end of last episode.
And Sasha clearly does not trust Ryan.
Right, and vice versa.
But they want to say that they're trusting each other for whatever reason.
Right, and then Sasha pulls out this thing in her wardrobe where she's got files on cast members. Yep. And I was like, where did she get all this information from?
Well, she's been following it since the beginning.
Right. So we now know that Sasha is on the case, so trying to figure out what's been happening, and she's trying to use as much information that she can gather from Ryan. Like she gave him the key, and like Ryan's like, let me check everything that she she gave him that key super easy.
So fast. I was like, oh, okay. She was like, at first I was like, okay, you gave him your key, so clearly you want to act like you have nothing to hide, but you do. So it just made her look more guilty to me personally.
Right.
But then I was like, well, why doesn't Ryan have any questions? Like, he just took the key, and I was like, oh, here we go, Ryan again. But I'm glad that he was like, no, I don't trust it in the car.
Right. And then we get through Sasha. We're all trying to figure out if we like her or not. And then she goes and gets herself blown up.
Well, is she? Let's see. Here's another thing.
We didn't see the body.
We didn't see the body, so we don't know if
we don't know if she got blown up.
But I mean, it was pretty fast. So if they go back to it and she's not blown up, I need to know. I need to see.
We have an idea of who blew her up, though, because Sasha had a phone call
from Peter Teo,
and he said, "Not if I see you first."
Right, and that's the one thing that I wanted to bring up is because I feel like she obviously got blown up because she was doing too much digging. And she was
asking too many questions.
She was asking way too many questions. And then when she got on the phone with Peter Teo, and she was like, "Oh, I just want to talk about some of your your charitable things." And then she started going into specific people. I was like, "Come, like, you're not an FBI or a CIA agent. You're a reporter. Right. Like, let's stay in our lane,
right,
before you get yourself blown up." And she did.
Right. Yeah. So that was weird. So hopefully Sasha. I can't imagine that it would happen like that so fast.
I don't think so either. And I think this only goes back to my conspiracy theory where Sasha is part of this bigger thing, and they're framing it like she's blown up or dead so that because Ryan was getting too close to her or learning too much about her, so she needed an out, and that's what her out was. So I feel like something's going on with her, and I still don't trust her.
Yeah, I don't trust her.
Even if she's dead or not.
The last thing I want to talk about, who I don't trust, is the situation with Speaker Rourke and Felix in his office, where he threatens Felix by saying that if he does not get the information that he needs from Clay and Claire Haas, that he's going to revoke his green card. If I was Felix, I would have gone straight to Clay. I'd have been, let me tell you what's happening right now.
I don't think that I would have went straight to Clay. I think I would have. I think this is what might happen with Felix, is that he's going to start realizing that Rourke isn't this great person.
I hope he realized that in that moment.
And he's going to start going back to Clay under the radar and start being like a double agent for Rourke and for Clay.
Right. But I mean, I think I would go to them first and then tell them.
I don't think he can do that because, and they kind of addressed it in this episode, and I don't know if it was foreshadowing when, Clay went to see Rourke and he was like, nobody knows I'm here. And Rourke was like, this is the government. Everybody knows where you are at all times.
They just don't know who you're working for.
Right. So I feel like, I don't think Felix could go straight to them because they would know. They would know that he would be having these private meetings. So I think that he should do it on like under the radar. And
well, Felix better get a good Reddit account. Start sending some messages out to Clay in the White House, because or he's going to be deported. And I don't even think that he thought he would do that as, you know, his star person. So yeah, so definitely let us know how you guys feel about Sasha getting blown up, about Miranda being back, about Caleb being back. I mean, there was a lot to unpack in this episode.
And there was a lot going on between Alex and Owen. I just want to touch up on that really quick because I feel like their relationship is evolving in this weird way.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's not going to become romantic. I feel like it stays this teacher student relationship and not go romantic.
See, I just don't care about Alex and Owen. You know, I'm just like, yeah, they're do their job. Alex is training him to be back in the field because that's what he wants and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, where's Lydia? Where's Deanna? Where are all these people at? We got some folks, like I said, hello, folks in the chat room. But I also want to bring up some of our posts from you guys in the comments section. So thanks for that. Joanna is bubbly says, I agree that it looks like they are going with the Shelby Clay way. And why, Quantico writers, why? I don't want it. I don't think anyone wants it. Sasha might be bad, but is 100% shady, lying to Ryan. I like Harry, so I'm sad if he's not coming back, but I hope at least they explain what happens to him, not just drop it, which they did in this episode.
Okay.
Claudia said, I feel you, Tim, about the whole Sebastian thing. Honestly, I could care less about him. I don't even remember him having done something actually productive. He only seems to appear to mess things up and be an idiot. So there's that. And then Claudia goes on to tell us about Caleb being in this episode as well and confirming that. And last but not least, what's that? Miranda. I got to pull it up. Miranda says, loved the episode. Love the after show. You guys always make me laugh so hard. Thank you. And that's hard to do, so props to you. I hope the show stays on course. I love this half of the season so much more than I did the first half. Don't we all? I also think Ryan is going to find anything. I also think Ryan isn't going to find anything on Sasha, and Alex will eventually then no one will believe Alex because you guys, that is like a habit to them because, you know, Ryan and Alex are back and forth. And when it's almost too late, the rest of them will learn Sasha is bad and they will apologize again. So, Alex, we can go to the next season. Oh, my God. I hope Kayla will be in the next episode. Otherwise, I'm convinced they do this fake news thing to let us learn we need to do more research on things. Thanks for that. Yeah, no fake news here. We're trying to give you all the real news, even though it's fake government.
Yes.
And presidents going rogue to places without telling anybody, without popping up and people knowing.
He's not going to get over that. But we love our viewers. We love when you guys give us thoughts and feedback on our episodes. We love engaging with you guys and hearing your predictions and stuff like that because it gives us more to think about and more feedback for us to you know, sit and stew about. And I'm glad one of the viewers brought up the whole Sebastian thing again because I just want to kind of touch up on, you know, him going back to Carly and why he's, you know, doing what he's doing is because he wants to see what happened with Carly.
He wants to know why somebody played him.
Yeah.
He should have never been. You know what should have happened? He should have never been with Carly in the first place. Should have stuck with Harry, like Harry had been trying to tell him. And then he got played. So, but you know what? We're not going to get played on this show because we don't get played on this show like we did in the first half of the season because the second half is so much better.
So much better.
Let us know what you guys thought of the episode. We got episode 19 left. We only got 4 episodes left.
4 episodes.
I'm very excited for the end of this season because then we go into summer and we can take a little nap from this crazy season.
Yes, we need a break.
Where can they find you on Twitter?
Hey guys, I'm Timothy Michael again. You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Timothy Mike. Join me Wednesday night. I will be on the Survivor after show. I'm sure you guys all saw the last episode, which is crazy. If you haven't, go tune in. It's ridiculous.
I'm Drexel Hurd. You can find me on the Twitter at Drexel Hurd and on Facebook at Official Drexel Hurd. Tomorrow night, I'm back on Political Culture, Black Hollywood Live. Me and Chelsea Galicia. We're going to be talking Trump and Easter eggs and Syria and Afghanistan and a whole bunch of other stuff.
And chocolate cake.
And chocolate, that wonderful, great, tall chocolate cake. We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.